Hey there, 8th graders. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer, where we're going to dive into something deeply personal and honestly, incredibly powerful, your very own story. Today, we're going to figure out exactly how to take all those unique memories and experiences bouncing around in your head and turn them into super engaging, powerful stories. We call this a personal narrative. And trust me, learning how to craft one of these is literally one of the most rewarding skills you'll ever develop. In Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, we read, "Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it." God has given you a wonderfully unique story. The stuff you've actually experienced, the lessons you've learned, these aren't just random, meaningless events. They can actually inspire someone else who might be going through something remarkably similar. That's exactly why sharing your experiences through a personal narrative isn't just another English assignment. It's this profound way to connect with others, to share your heart, and to make your unique revelation plain for the whole world to see. So here's our quick game plan for today. We're going to cover 1. The spark of your story, 2. Mapping your memory, 3. Finding your emotion lens, 4. Planning with sensory details, and finally, 5. The godly learner's purpose. All right, let's get into it. Starting off with section 1, the spark of your story, finding your starting point. So what exactly is a personal narrative anyway? Basically, it's a true story about a memory, an idea, or a specific moment that truly matters to you. And every single good story starts with a spark. Think about a moment in your life that made you laugh out loud, a moment that made you cry, or maybe a time when you learned something deeply important. That spark, that's your starting point. Writing a personal narrative is basically your formal invitation to let others step right into your world and see exactly what shaped you. Now, we can't just start writing blindly, right? A well-planned story is going to keep your reader totally engaged from the very first line all the way to the last. It acts like a laser, focusing on what matters most. On the flip side, an unplanned story just kind of wanders. It loses its meaning. The reader gets confused, and ultimately, you miss out on sharing the really important details that made the story special to you in the first place. Planning is basically what builds the bridge between what's in your head and what your reader actually experiences. And by the end of this explainer today, you guys are going to be absolute masters of this planning process. You'll know exactly how to choose a meaningful personal event. You'll know how to map out a really clear beginning, middle, and end. And, perhaps most importantly, you're going to know exactly how to decide which sensory and emotional details to include to make your writing absolutely shine. Moving right along to section 2, mapping your memory, outlining your events. Okay, here's the thing. A really big event can be super overwhelming to write about all at once. Let's say you want to write about your very first day at a new school. That is a huge topic. So instead of just diving in head first, you use a memory map to jot down key moments chronologically. First, the morning, getting ready, feeling nervous, maybe just staring at your backpack. Next, class time, that intense feeling of walking right into that brand new classroom. Finally, lunch, the massive relief of actually meeting a new friend. By breaking it down into this simple timeline, boom, you instantly have a super clear outline for your entire story. No wandering around, just a perfectly structured narrative path. Which brings us to section 3, finding your emotion lens, choosing your focus. Let me show you just how powerfully this little lens can totally shift your writing. Picture this. You're writing a story about winning a massive soccer game. The actual events are exactly the same, but if your emotional lens is victory, well, you're going to emphasize the final score, the sweat, the incredible triumph, and the cheering crowd. But, and this is big, if you choose the emotion lens of teamwork, your whole story shifts. Now you're emphasizing how your teammates beautifully passed the ball, how you relied on each other, and those incredible looks you shared out on the field. The events literally did not change, but deciding on your main emotion completely transforms how you describe those events to your reader. Next up, section 4, planning with sensory details, bringing the story to life. If you just write something like, "The room had pencils," well, that's just a plain fact. It's boring. Your reader is practically snoozing. But a sensory sentence like, "The smell of fresh pencils filled the room," changes absolutely everything. Suddenly, you aren't just handing them a fact. You're giving them an experience. They can almost smell the wood shavings and graphite. So whenever you map out your story, you absolutely must intentionally plan out the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, and the physical feelings of that exact moment. That is exactly how you paint a vivid picture that completely captivates your audience. And finally, section 5, the godly learner's purpose, why we write. All right, so let's look at your actual assignment. I want you to pick your very own meaningful personal experience and put all this into practice. You're going to complete these 5 specific planning steps. First, choose the experience and write 3 quick sentences on why it really matters to you. Second, create a chronological 5-step timeline. Third, identify your single main emotion lens. Fourth, brainstorm a list of 3 really vivid sensory details. And finally, write a crystal clear 1-sentence summary of your whole story. This is how you take real action on what you've learned today. Now, as you tackle this assignment, I really want you to remember why we're even learning this in the first place. Here at HeroesMart Academy, we passionately believe that education absolutely must be intertwined with biblical morality. Because honestly, education without morality can actually hurt. Knowledge and intelligence shouldn't just exist to make you a more capable person. They should actively help you make wise, God-honoring choices in how you influence the world around you. You know, the Apostle Paul actually teaches us in Romans chapter 8, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." As you guys pursue academic excellence and become stronger communicators, I really encourage you to keep your mind completely centered on God, truth, wisdom, and righteous choices. Because at the end of the day, writing a personal narrative is really about truth and honesty. And that spiritually minded focus is what truly leads to life and peace. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought as you pull out those notebooks and get started. What God-honoring story has He given you to share with the world today? How can you use your brilliantly unique experiences, your brand new memory mapping skills, and those vivid sensory details to write a story that inspires someone else and points them straight toward truth? You have a story worth telling. Now go plan it and write it beautifully. I literally can't wait to read these. Have an absolutely wonderful time writing, 8th graders.